Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms Chats. And today we're featuring KIPP Texas San Antonio Public Schools. They just started their open enrollment period last week, and open enrollment runs through the end of February. And that's a great excuse to reshare our enrollment guide blog post. And you can find a link to that in the description of the video. And it's got tons of information about KIPP Texas Public Schools here in San Antonio. And to talk about all about KIPP, we have some wonderful guests today. So we have a return guest, Alan Smith. He's the regional superintendent of KIPP San Antonio. Thank you, Alan.
Yes,
and
thank you.
yeah, he's been the regional superintendent since 2019. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and he has a distinguished resume as a school leader of big and small districts across the U.S. and history as a basketball player. So. And then let's see, below me on the screen is Jeremy Gray, and he is the school leader at KIPP Somos Collegiate High School, which is the newest school in the KIPP San Antonio network. And I met Jeremy when he was just getting that school up off the ground. So I'm looking forward to getting an update about what's happening at KIPP Somos. And then to share the parent perspective, we have Eliza Castillo. So she has 3 kids who are students at KIPP schools. 2 are at KIPP Esperanza Primary, and then 1 is at Aspire, which is the middle school. So thank you all so much for joining me on Charter Mom Chats. I'm really excited to talk more about KIPP.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
I'm gonna put Alan on the big box here. So Alan, I would like to start out with talking about the mission and vision of KIPP schools. And
yeah,
I know
absolutely.
it's a big topic, but just give us the highlights.
It is a big topic, and I think it's an important one, especially as we look at, the time that we're in now and what students really need as we continue on during the pandemic. And really, we are focused on bringing our families and our communities together to create a joyful, academically rigorous, and excellent schools. And so we have one of our excellent school leaders on. We have one of our excellent parents with us, and our purpose is really to make sure that we're connected, both team and family. What you see is a representation, and to make sure that truly we help students realize their fullest potential educationally, and I always like to say help them dream with their eyes open, which means that they can be successful in any college they choose to attend or any post-secondary opportunity that interests them. And that's what KIPP is really about.
Yeah, well, that's a great summary. There's so much going on with KIPP, and we tried to capture that in the blog post. There's so many traditions and so many great initiatives happening. But I was wondering if y'all, I'm going to go to the 4 screen here. If y'all could talk about the like KIPP in San Antonio, like how many campuses there are, kind of what grade levels they serve. Ellen, do you want to lead that, or do you want to hand it off to Jeremy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I can pass it on. There are 7 schools in San Antonio. We have 3 campuses. We will be expanding soon to a 4th campus. And we actually are, we have 4 campuses, I should say that. We'll be expanding soon to a 5th campus. And we have 2 primaries, which are Esperanza and Umundo. We have 3 middle schools, Aspire, Camino, and Poder. And then we have 2 high schools, UPrep and Jeremy, who is a principal at Somos.
Well, that's a good segue. Jeremy, do you want to talk more about KIPP Somos?
Hi, Inga. Yeah, I'd love to. So Somos is in its 3rd year now. We founded with 9th graders in 2019. And those 9th graders have grown up, and they have continued to stay with us and are now our junior class. We have 9 through 11. That grade will then grow to our 12th grade next year, and we'll be a fully developed high school with grades 9 through 12 here on our campus. And we have continued to really grow in the programs that we launched in our founding year. So we founded as an AP for all school to ensure that every student has access and opportunity to participate in an advanced placement program. And all of our students are participating in those AP courses. And as they're in their junior year, we have students in AP US History and AP English Language. But we also have students in AP Spanish and AP Computer Science and AP Art. So our AP program is really growing, and students are really enjoying that program as it continues to be not just part of the core program, but also their electives and the passions that they're choosing.
Yeah, that's amazing. AP classes are great preparation because kids get college credit, and they're taking classes that are kind of benchmarked against what kids at other schools are doing. And the fact that it's AP for all, it means that kids aren't getting tracked one way or another. It means that the opportunity is there for every kid. They're not being no one at KIPP is being told like, well, you're not that kind of student, or that's not what you can expect in your future. But the message is to everybody is that you have great potential, and we're going to help you get there.
Yeah, I think that's a really big, important part of our program here, because I think it also says, whether you know what you're up to after high school right now, or you're still developing that path for yourself, we want to make sure that you're ready and have all of the avenues and opportunities open to you in your future. And that starts here and now, and making sure that you don't close any doors prematurely, and that you have all those opportunities available.
Yeah, well, that's great. Okay, I'm going to put Eliza. I'm putting her on the spot on the big screen here. So, Eliza, can you comment a little bit about the primary and middle school programs, since you have kids in those programs?
So the primary program at Esperanza, my daughter started at kindergarten. She is now in third grade. She's the only one of my students one of my children that started at KIPP at the kindergarten level and worked her way up. All three of my children are dyslexic. They get services from KIPP. Olivia, her progress from being at KIPP, the individualization that she has gotten from KIPP Esperanza, she's ahead of where her sisters were when they were in third grade, and they went to big, school districts. And I thought like, oh, they have all the funding. They'll get all the, extra 504 and IEP and all the accommodations. I didn't realize that they were so big that they weren't able to individually give my children the attention that they needed. So when Olivia was accepted to KIPP in kindergarten, I was really excited. We transitioned as a family over there, and she is doing excellent. Any little issue that I have, any concern, I can message her special ed teacher or her aide, say, hey, I'm thinking that Olivia has this problem or that problem. Did you notice this? To have a teacher's cell phone number so that they can text you or call you, that does not happen. But let me tell you, at KIPP, I have an 8th grader. I have every teacher's number except for one. I've got a 5th grader. I have every teacher's number. Esperanza, I've got every teacher's cell phone number. And it's not because I used to work there. It's because the teachers gave me their numbers this year. So I liked that my kids were individualized students, not just a number at KIPP. So that's really what made me stay with KIPP. And my children are still there, and I really appreciate everything that they've gotten from KIPP, the resources that KIPP had for them, and good for one, good for all. I noticed in KIPP, if something worked for Olivia, they did not give it to another student just because they didn't have an IEP or a 504 or whatever it may be. I loved their universal design learning that they had. So that was, they've kept me there all these years. So I'm very happy with the education that my children have gotten from KIPP.
Yeah, that individualizing for students is something that's really hard to do well. But I think that goes to show like the kind of people who are teaching at KIPP, the kind of support and preparation that they get, and the level of commitment, of having right parent communication, that it sounds like you have access to all your kids' teachers. And and it's that you mentioned students with dyslexia. And October is Dyslexia Awareness Month. We've been sharing some posts on our social about that, but it's something that every family needs to be aware of the signs, especially if they have young students who are maybe acting a little different than their peers when it comes to reading. The important thing is to ask for help, and to go to a school like KIPP that will support your students with dyslexia, help them make as much progress as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna go back to the 4-screen, and I want everybody to get a chance to share more just stories and examples of the KIPP culture in action. I think Jeremy gave a great example talking about AP for all. Eliza talking about individualizing instruction for her daughters and the kind of dyslexia services. So how about I'll hand it off to Alan, and everybody can chime in and share more examples of KIPP culture in action.
Yeah, and I'll take a minute to share two quick stories. One, I think, is around this pandemic, and of course, has touched now our schools and education for 3 years. And when we think about when we started this off, where we were and how uncertain things are and continue to be in a lot of different ways, we really rallied together as a team and family to make sure our families not only got the resources that they needed, but truly were being contacted and cared for during, the initial part of it. And so we were able to distribute, technology to all of our students, hotspots to all of our families that needed, even if there are families that needed meals. I believe we passed out over 20,000 meals during that time. And the end result being is that people, continue to support us, continue to stay with us. And even though I wouldn't be truthful in saying we aren't experiencing a lot of the hardships that everyone else is, truly our staffs are very resilient. And Jeremy can tell you has an excellent staff that he's been able to 3 years that truly have been able to build more into these students. And so we're still seeing a lot of movement academically, which is what I'm very excited about. The other story is about where we are now. And as we turn to school from being out a year of kind of being, on virtual, it was an adjustment for our teachers, adjustment for students who had in a lot of cases been isolated. A lot of our teachers have been working from computers and had to learn how to become virtual instructors overnight, but really coming back into the space, the joy that both the students and our teachers have. And even though we have challenges, teachers are rallying and pulling behind each other to do the hard work. And I just coined this motto, which is everything that we are truly striving for is past hard, and we're going to get past hard. Because when we do, our KIPPsters are going to truly benefit. And that's what we see people doing in KIPP Texas, San Antonio.
That makes a lot of sense. I like that phrase, past hard. That it's right. It's worth doing, but it's going to be hard. We just have to make that expectation. But it's worth doing. And like you said, find the joy in it. And that resonates with me, what you said about that during the pandemic, that KIPP made sure to support families, right? Like things like meals and the technology, and then make sure those supports are there. And then that creates, or that supports the relationship so that the students stay enrolled and the students stay engaged. And that way they can continue to make progress in learning despite how disrupted things are. And I know for myself, like, I think like a lot of folks, like I thought I was being pessimistic by thinking, well, I can hang on this way for a year and then things will be more normal. Well, it's gone way past a year. And I had friends who were like, well, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, no, it'll be like at least a year. Well, we're going on the third school year of disruption. And that's where, finding the strength to seek quality. Yes, it is past hard, but it's worth doing.
That's right.
Okay, well, let me switch out, give Jeremy a chance to share some more stories about kind of KIPP culture in action.
Sure. One of the things that I'm thinking a lot about in this school year, we know that this is our third school year with an impact from COVID. And we know that there has been varying degrees of student academic achievement. And we know that different gaps have been created for kids, and we are working to close those. So one of the things that I'm thinking a lot about at our school is we have a program, our school mascot is the Serpents. So we have a program called Serpent Growth Hour, which is an hour on Wednesday and Thursday where students have targeted intervention and support based on their levels from last year and where they're going. So for some students, if they were not able to pass the STAR test last year, but are still working towards that, then they will have a Serpent Growth Hour. They're working to build the skills to be ready for the STAR retest in December. For other students who passed all their STAR tests but are working to continue to increase their AP scores, they might have a Serpent growth hour related called a bridge to AP. So they might be working on AP US history. They might be practicing the skills and knowledge of that test in order to get ready. And then for some other students who have passed multiple AP tests, they've cleared their STAR hurdles, they are in what we call competitive app programs. So they could be working towards creating a submission to the regional science fair, or they might be working on the regional robotics competition. Different programs like that. And I think this is a really strong example of when I think of KIPP culture, because it's about meeting students where they're at and then supporting each student on like where they're at and where they're going to continue to differentiate our support. So that way every student is able to ultimately reach a high level of success. And it's something that we launched this year knowing that this year would be different, and we found a lot of success in it. And super proud of my teachers for all of the hard work that they're putting in to bring it to life, and for our students for digging right in, working on the work that's in front of them, knowing that it ultimately is going to continue to move them closer to the goals that they have for themselves.
Yeah, Jeremy, that makes a lot of sense. But I guess like once you explain it, it seems like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's the kind of thing where, I think like a lot of schools, they may have, resources or time, or they have a mandate, right, to get kids caught up. But the real question is like, how do we implement this in a way that makes sense? And what you're talking about makes a lot of sense. So it's basically prioritized, right? So if the kids have to retake the STAR and pass the STAR so that they can, because that's or the end of course exams or a graduation requirement, right? So that's really essential. So prioritize that. AP tests, that helps them to get college credit, and it helps them to make their college applications more likely to succeed. So that's an important goal. And then where you're talking about the competitive apps and things like robotics and stuff, like that's the kind of thing where there might be kids who would say, oh well, this is too easy, or what am I doing this for? It's important to give those kids like things to reach for, right? And things that engage them and that make high school meaningful. So I have a 14-year-old, so so I appreciate that, how independent minded kids are at that age. And they ask challenging questions, and then you have to explain like why this is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that when you were saying that made me think about it is we've been really intentional to not take students out of elective courses in the fine arts and performing arts and computer science for them to have an intervention, because we know that those courses really matter to students, and it's something that like is really passionate for them. So being able to create a time where every student is receiving acceleration and on their level and continuing on their path, so that way nobody actually has to miss any of their other classes, and we're able to do this work alongside that other meaningful work.
Yeah, that's really important. But like you said, it takes a commitment from teachers and staff to put the time in to do that, because and like Ellen said, everyone has to go, but it's past hard, right? But that commitment is there to make sure the students can succeed. Okay, I'm going to put Eliza on the screen again and give her another chance to share stories about that demonstrate KIPP culture. So, and you've already shared about, again, like individualizing for, kids, needing more reading support. But are there like special things that happen on campus, or like traditions that you get to participate in?
I came from, a public school, and parent volunteering was so low. The school encouraged it a lot, but there's a lot of gates you've got to get through to get in there to volunteer. And at KIPP, they allowed me to start volunteering. At first, it was volunteering to help, decorate or do this or do that. So that's how I got my foot in the door at KIPP, was just volunteering, and I fell in love with it. That was something that I didn't get at another campus that was KIPP culture. Parents were really welcomed at the campus. We got to go eat lunch every Friday. Now, because of COVID, we don't. But every Friday, you were allowed to eat lunch with your student, which I thought was nice, because even though you sat in the class in the cafeteria with your child, you could observe the whole school. And it wasn't like, as a parent, I was sat outside. I got to be in there and see what was really happening at my school. We would have on Friday mornings, we have cafecito with our principals. It's just a virtual meeting. We get to talk to our principals, tell them what we need, questions that we have. Even Alan has came to our campus back in the day when we were in person, and would have an open forum with just us parents. And it was like just a good old sit down, what we're worried about, some concerns that we have. And sometimes a lot of it was praise, praising our teachers, our staff, that they got support. One thing, KIPP, I never am afraid to say, hey, you know, one of my students' teachers was saying that she didn't have enough time, like, you know, something happened, you know, and so I'm always able to go to my principals or to the students' counselors and talk to them. And teachers felt open to talk to me. And I felt like as a parent before anything, I was able to like help bridge gaps. You know, there is a huge gap between parents and school, and we are always trying to bridge those two together. Like, and KIPP did that. And let me tell you, one of the coolest ways, there's this book, it's called Bridges Out of Poverty. I read it here recently, but KIPP worked that last summer. So last summer, you could go every Monday to KIPP campus and you could pick up breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Monday and Wednesday with your kids, along with a gallon of milk. A gallon of milk on Monday. You got that for your one student. On Wednesday, you went back and you got meals for the weekend too. Now that shows that you care. When there was an ID issue, we had a drive-through line where parents would come, sit in their car, and we just did it like that. There's some parents who don't know how to put in a ticket. They could pick up the phone, call the school, and say, hey, I need a ticket put in. There were parents who had issues with registration. I mean, anything. It was like I had access to the school. I haven't had that in different school districts. So that's something very different, you know. And yes, you know, they had an open door invitation. Not now, obviously, you know, but even still, I still feel the open door invitation. I've been texting my daughter's aide today. You know, she was letting me know that she's going to be gone for a few months, and I appreciate that. When you're at I'm not going to say normal school, at other school districts, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. It's really busy. And I felt like KIPP, they were able to support their staff so that their staff could adequately support my child. I know that there's a lot of paperwork that comes with special ed 504, and whatever KIPP did behind the scenes, they were able to make sure that that paperwork was taken care of so that my daughter could get the services and her aide wasn't sitting there doing paperwork. Whatever their system was, it was great. They figured it out. And the staff was there for when they needed you. Teachers would stay on after class during COVID virtually and talk to parents openly. What didn't you understand? And my daughter was in second grade at the time, but let me tell you, some of us parents had things that we didn't understand. And it was neat to have that open forum and other parents say, hey, I had a question about this or that. And we all kind of felt like we were on the same level. And the neat thing about COVID, we learned that when a kid was sick, they could still have, you know, remote learning. But we also got into a little bit personal with our teachers, and our teachers weren't afraid, like, oh, you know, no, we got to meet moms and kids and dads and everybody. So KIPP really, they've opened their doors, and it's more of a family and a community than it was a school, you know, just a regular school where you dropped off your kid and then you didn't go in those doors. No, it's not like that here. So I really appreciate that. You know, schools encourage parent engagement, but there's certain, you know, it's not always easy as it sounds. So I really appreciate that with KIPP.
Yeah, well, those are, you know what, you gave your testimony so persuasive because you gave specific examples of how the parent communication works. And like, it's one thing to just say like, oh yeah, there's communication, but like, I mean, you were very specific, right? Things like the virtual cafecito, right? And then, you know, communicating with teachers, and like you said, it comes from the school providing support so that the teachers have time to do the relationship building. So whatever paperwork, you know, I have a child on the autism spectrum, so I know exactly what you mean. If there's goals and there's all this stuff to write, but it's without the relationships, the system's not going to work. And that's what you're describing is a level of organization and support, but focusing on relationships so that the parents feel heard. And yeah, like you know, in some ways, the virtual interaction, it does kind of open up our rooms in a different way.
I mean, because now we can have parent-teacher conferences virtually. Moms and dads that normally couldn't make an appointment, an ARD that just had to sign off or whatever it may be, now they get to go and they get to be there. So as much as we think COVID was a horrible thing, it has taught us some great things. Because let me tell you, I have my daughter that goes to KIPP. She has monthly infusion, so she would miss school every day. But now, virtually, she's able to take her laptop with her. She's able to stay communicate, open communication. So COVID has taught us some good things. It was tough, but there were a lot of ways that KIPP made it like, hey, you know what? This isn't so bad. It really wasn't, and we made it through. And like, do you know that my daughter went from first grade reading level to the beginning of third grade during COVID? Like like we all have House Bill 4545 for a reason. So the fact that this child who is severely dyslexic and is getting tested for dysgraphia now went up that much during COVID after never stepping foot in that classroom, like since March, I couldn't believe it. And I was one of those parents that felt secure enough in KIPP, in their protocol, in everything that they did, that my students went back last year and were there virtually. And let me tell you, my students, they did not get COVID. They never got COVID from their kids. And anytime I had a concern, KIPP would, okay, we can test the girls, or if somebody in their class got it and you're going to pick up your student, they would test them, allow you to test them before you even like drove off of the campus, which was perfect because that keeps COVID contained. Like they did the steps, like the CDC would have been proud of them. I was.
That's what, yeah, we updated the blog post with photos of showing kids wearing masks, that that there's a serious commitment to safety. And Jeremy, there must be other folks in your classroom if you're still you got the mask on. Yeah. Well, these are great stories. There was a couple of, actually a couple things that I learned about recently. I wanted to send these questions over to Alan. So let's see if we can put Alan on the spot here. I wanted to ask specifically about KIPP Forward for an update on that, and then also about the partnership with Special Olympics, Unified Champion Schools. So KIPP Forward is the keeping in touch with alumni, right?
So KIPP Forward, and I think we talked about this a bit before, is formerly known as KIPP through College. And we've changed it because it is not just about college. It is about the way or the path forward to a successful life, to a successful career, to whatever it may be. For some, it is actually getting to college, being a first-time, college goer in their family. For others, it's about career and going through a trade school or something like that. For others, it may be, I'm going to the workforce and I'm going to start thinking about how to save so I can buy my first house. And so we've really made it a well-rounded approach and increased the services on what KIPP through College was, with still the same focus of making sure that all of our students are prepared to apply and get accepted into college with the most financial support and scholarships that we could possibly find for them. But we also don't want to limit it, because we do have a lot of alumni, and alumni come back to us and they want that support as well. And so we are able to now give it to them in a more holistic way. So that's KIPP Forward, and it's great. I love it. To me, and I think I told you this before, that was a game changer for me. In making my decision to come to KIPP, because I really never saw a program like this so robust, that truly does help students every step of the way and help with their eyes open. The second piece that I think is really big was the partnership that we were able to forge with the Special Olympics, which is, a huge deal, especially with this being an Olympic year. And it's about sports, yes, but it is championing all of our students through sports to be socially connected within their school community. And so we are now weaving that into our core curriculum and how we go about our day to day, and there will continue to be programs. And it's not just for students with disabilities, but it's for all of our students, because one of the things that is so unique, even though it is primarily geared towards students with disabilities, students get to interact with each other and really experience each other for who they are. And that is helping our campus grow helping our students feel a sense of belonging, and everyone be connected through hopefully things that they like, which are different sports and activities.
Yeah, Ellen, I want to reinforce what you've been saying about, like about KIPP Forward, that I've been following like KIPP Through College and now KIPP Forward for years, and I've watched it sort of grow. I mean, the data show that like KIPP alumni are much more likely, if they do go to college, are much more likely to stick to it and actually, graduate with their degree within a reasonable amount of time. And so there's data that shows the program works. And KIPP is one of the oldest, most established charter school networks in the country. So there's a lot of data, not just in Texas, but across the network. What you're talking about, like this is hard to do because like from an equity standpoint, like in the past, certain racial or ethnic groups were tracked towards trade schools, and then like whiter like children of college educated people, they would get tracked towards college. And so there was an equity issue in terms of, and so like saying, look, everybody can go to college, like that was revolutionary in the 90s. And an important message. But what you're saying is that we have to look at the reality now. And, like college is really expensive, and there's a huge demand for people with skills to go into jobs. And, there's just a wide range of options out there. So what you want to do is make sure that children from all backgrounds have access to college, but they don't necessarily have to choose college because that might not be the right thing for them. So it's just giving them all the information they need for the full range. I think that's the ideal way to do one of these programs. And I'm glad that, and also, KIPP has been generous about sharing that knowledge, like with San Antonio ISD and other, districts that are concerned about closing gaps, but also want to do it in the most effective and most thoughtful way.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of districts that have wanted to look at this model and adopt it. I mean, SAISD has adopted it, and we think it's so special because it truly does work. I mean, when you think about what Jeremy's doing, Jeremy has a rigorous, and really special program at his school. The AP for All. And when it's time for these students to apply, they're going to get the best knowledge. They're going to get the best resources and support to help them navigate their decisions as they think about it. And that's something that you just don't see all the time.
Yeah. Well, I guess since we mentioned Jeremy, you want to chime in and talk about like, you have current students, right? And you don't have any alumni yet, but do you have any thoughts about KIPP Forward?
Yeah, so I think KIPP Forward is doing some incredible work on our campus. So starting in students' 11th grade year, it is a course that they take every day. So our Dean of Post-Secondary Readiness teaches that course for them in their 11th grade year. They have done exploration throughout the last 2 years, and then now they do it every day around like a variety of topics. I think one of the things that's really cool is like really starting to think about your transition post high school, not just to like a university setting, but into the greater world. So they did some simulations last week related to finances, which, as we all know as adults, is a really interesting thing. So it's like, students had a job and then they earned the salary for that job, but then they also had to choose the apartment or the house that they wanted to live in, and they had to pay the rent or mortgage. And then the teacher really built it to simulate the real world, which is, then this thing happens. Your car needs 4 new tires all of a sudden because you're driving down the highway, and just the things that happen to us all every day. And I think kids' ability to navigate and experience that in a low stress setting in a school where they're able to collaborate with colleagues, ask their teacher for thoughts and advice, really says a lot around like what we believe for students' futures. That then when those things happen, because they will, because we are human, because there is no protecting ourselves from real life, students will have the skills to navigate those situations and like emotional resilience to know like, okay, this is a moment, this too shall pass, and we will get through this together. So I think that is one of the really special things is I think around KIPP Forward, it's not just around finding a college and applying to it and filling out the FAFSA, but it's also about learning how to navigate the world that you're going to go into and how to feel confident as a young adult in that space.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I want to reinforce what Ellen said about the partnership with Special Olympics and like the importance of inclusion, because I as I mentioned, I have a child with special needs on the autism spectrum, and what I found was that the settings where even if they're trying their best to provide good care for the children in special education, if they're isolating them, then those kids aren't able to reach their full potential. And then the typically abled students are not getting the benefit of being able to work with children who have all kinds of diverse abilities and skills, and not appreciating how much every person has to contribute, regardless of sort of what set of abilities or skills they were born with. It's about what's in our heart, and it's about what we can give, and just learning to take people where they are and include people and treat everyone with kindness. And like, nobody gets a special label of like, oh, I'm fragile, you have to treat me different. It's like, we should all treat each other with kindness. And I want to echo something that Eliza said. Like, if there's something that's benefiting her students and they have the dyslexia diagnosis, and there's another student who needs that support as well, whether they have the label or not, like, let's get students what they need. And I think that's a very pragmatic attitude, and it benefits students. But this is how everything should be done. And I'm just really happy to hear about this specific program and this partnership. And like Alan said, it's not just PE or sports, but it's in how everything should be done.
Yeah, it's important, Inga, that as we continue to go through this pandemic, there are so many stories of trauma that everyone has experienced, and it's just been a hard period for adults and students. And if we're going to create brave and belonging spaces at our schools where everyone can come and be their authentic self, this is a great program, along with just making sure that we are treating everyone with dignity and respect. And that's really what it's about. We've examined our practices from the past to make sure that we are not only adapting and being more equitable, but making sure that we're sending the right and attendant messages. And that's very important, because this is where most of our young people spend the majority of their time. And while we're in front of them, we have to care for them. We have to nurture them. And we have to show them, how it is to get along in a community that many of them are going to live in for the rest of their lives. And I think that is the beauty of our adults and our students, families working together. We understand that importance. And when we don't get it right, I am thankful that we have parents that will tell us, like Ms. Castillo, that will tell us, this is not necessarily working for our student. And we want to make sure that we get it right for our students. So it's important for us to fix it and not just pay lip service. Yeah.
Well, on that note, talking about treating every student with dignity, I think that's just about the best thing you could say about a school. So I want to make sure that before we close off, we tell families who've been listening, what action they can take to learn more about KIPP schools and get their kids enrolled. So I'm going to go ahead and put the website up on the screen. Ellen, do you want to comment on this more, and then everybody can chime in?
Maybe I definitely can, but I'd love to turn it over to Jeremy. I mean, he can talk about it really well.
Yep. So we are in the process of collecting applications for families who are interested in our schools. Our open enrollment just started. So if families are considering where their student is going to be attending school next year, this is the perfect time to contact your local school in order to see what opportunities exist at that KIPP school. I think there are a lot of big transitions that happen in life. I think about this with families a lot as I run a high school. So when families transition from 8th to 9th grade, we know that is a big decision. And there's a lot of thoughts that go into that process. So one of my favorite things is when families reach out and they just ask about our school. And my thing is usually like, actually tell me a little bit more about your student. So I can actually learn more about your student and the things that interest them and what is going on in our school, and how those things might work together. So here we are with open enrollment. So as you're considering opportunities for next year, we'd love if you consider our schools here with KIPP Texas San Antonio. And with that, I think the best move is to see what is your local school, whatever that is, in elementary, middle, or high school. See which one is closest to you. Reach out for questions. And I always tell people, you should interview us. You should ask us the questions that you want to be true for your student. You should ask about the programs that we have to offer and find the best fit for your student. And we hope that you'll find your home here with us at KIPP Texas.
Well, that's great. And then I have I encourage everybody to go to sdchartermoms.com, and the feature post today is the KIPP enrollment guide. Or if you just search in the search bar for KIPP, it'll come up. And then in that article, there's there's certain ways that folks can get in more information. So there's an email, applysa@kipptexas.org. There's a phone number that gets you to the enrollment specialist, 210-880-8080. But like Jeremy said, tracking down that particular campus that's closest to you. And so like the KIPPtexas.org website shows where all the KIPP Texas campuses are. And we also have that information on the blog post. So we break down like which campus is where, and links to maps and which grade levels it covers, and things like that. So because it's my goodness, seven schools, right? 5 campuses and growing. It's exciting. So great job, Jeremy. Does everybody want to offer just kind of a closing thought, and then we'll wrap up the chat?
Sure, Ms. Castillo, you want to start?
Since we're on the topic of enrollment, let me tell you, on the way to school, I had a parent call me whose kids go to Camino, and she wanted to register for Un Mundo. So I called the Un Mundo register and sent the information over. But enrollment is open and it's hot and ready, because I even have friends who have asked me. So it's like a destination school. To me, it was. To my friends, it was. If you see what they're giving your students, I mean, what high school is going to help your child apply for financial aid? And when your student has issues in their second semester and this and that, and coming back to their campus to get help is, because we'll get our kids through high school, but what happens after? Whether it may be a trade school or wherever, KIPP is there to help your student. It doesn't end at 12th grade. So, if you're thinking about it, and you want your child to go further than you, and you only made it to high school or whatever, you want more for your child, give them the opportunity. Call KIPP, find out. It may be the school for you, because I know it was for us. Everything that I wanted, they had it all in one package. So I was very happy. So thank you all for allowing me to join your forum.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is just a ton of information. I've learned, every year when I do an update, I always learn more. And I'm really proud of the work that y'all are doing at KIPP, and I look forward to tracking down, getting more details about some of these programs like KIPP Forward and the partnership with Special Olympics. Ellen, you want to close us out?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I mean, you really got to hear authentic stories from a parent, which I think is important, a rock star school leader who is running a heck of a school. Please, if you get a chance to go over it and visit it, you'll be blown away. And what we're doing to continue to educate our students at this time, continue to help our teachers, really stay sane with all of the things that are going on, and try to provide them as much support, and, just where we are overall in this journey, which I believe is the best way to describe it. And of course, we want it. If we are a good fit for them, I know we can help them and provide them a full menu of supports and services, as well as give a top-notch education that will be able to allow them to go anywhere they want to, or do anything they want to. Last year, even during the pandemic, we were sending kids to Rice and Duke and top tier schools, and off to the military and other places, to realize their dreams. And that's what it's all about. We're committed to being here for a long haul and helping San Antonio's education community get better and educating kids to the best of our ability. So give us a try.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll take you guys up on that offer to visit KIPP Somos. I'm excited to see how it's grown. So, all right, thanks y'all. Have a great evening. Okay, bye.